Hello, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to Apex Nursing Academy's YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about drops per minute. We're going to do some dosage calculation, drops per minute problems, talk about them. Make sure that you have all the information you need to properly and correctly do these problems, okay? When we're talking about drops per minute, we're really talking about giving medication through an IV. Specifically, we're thinking about how many drops of med to give each minute over a set time. And that's going to be through the IV tubing, which is connected to the IV that is into the patient. So the patient is going to be getting fluids or medications through this IV, and the doctor has ordered so many milliliters to infuse over a certain amount of time, and we have to put in the drops per minute and correctly give this medication safely to the client. Usually the doctor or the healthcare provider, they will give an order. It's going to have what med, how much to infuse, and for how long. And like I said, as nurses, it's our job to give this medication according to the order safely. So you always want to make sure that you follow the 5 rights of medication. You want to make sure that you're checking your order, and you want to make sure that you're checking your calculations, especially if you have to sit down and do like handwritten calculations. It wouldn't hurt to have another nurse just check behind you or check behind yourself, double check, and make sure that you have calculated the right calculations in order to deliver the right drops per minute, okay? So when we're talking about that IV tubing, if you think about the chamber that holds that fluid where it drips, that drip is what we're thinking about when we're talking about macro drip set. These sets can regulate 10 to 20 drops per milliliter. A micro drip set regulates 60 drops per milliliter. So most of the time in these problems, it's going to tell you what the set is. It's going to tell you the drop factor. This is called the drop factor. So if it's a macro drip set, it's going to be specific. It'll tell you if it's 10 drops, 15 drops, 20 drops. But micro drip is usually always 60. So you may see 60 or you may see micro drip. And if you do see micro drip, just know that that is 60 for the drop factor. That set delivers 60 drops per milliliter, okay? Sometimes they say micro drip and they assume that you know it's 60. So we don't want to miss a problem just simply for not knowing that. The formula for drops per minute is volume times drop factor divided by time. This is very important. You must convert the time to be infused into minutes. If it gives you the time to be infused in minutes, you're good. But most of the time, it's going to be in hours, and you're going to have to convert that time to minutes. So what we're going to do is work out a few problems. And if you have any questions about it, just put it in the comments. I'll see it, and I will answer your questions, okay? So our first problem that we have here says the healthcare provider has ordered normal saline 1,000 milliliters to infuse over 12 hours. The drop factor is 15 drops per milliliter. How many drops per minute will the nurse set for the flow rate? Round to the nearest whole number. So this is a typical drops per minute problem. It has all the information you need to plug into the formula to get drops per minute. Remember, the formula is volume over time, and remember that it's in minutes times the drop factor. So the volume that needs to be infused here is 1,000 milliliters. The time We got 1,000 milliliters. The time is 12 hours. Now, we can't put 12 hours in our formula. We have to have our time in minutes. So what we're going to have to do is multiply 12 times 60 to get minutes. And when we multiply 12 times 60, we get 720 minutes. Now we're in the right unit that we need, and we can put 720 minutes. And we can't forget our drop factor here, which is 15. And now we have our formula set up to work out. Now, you can put your volume and your time, divide that, and then multiply by the drop factor. Or you can go ahead and multiply 1,000 by 15 and then divide that by 720. Whichever way, you're going to get the same answer, okay? So if we do multiply 1,000 times 15, we get 15,000. And we put that over 720. Then we divide that out, and that's going to give us 20.8333. It's going to just carry on. It wants us to round to the nearest whole number. So when we round to the nearest whole number, we get 21. So this is our answer, 21 drops per minute. All right. Let's go to our next problem. Remember, just put your comments. If you have any comments, just put them in the comment section. So this says an order reads 1,000 milliliters of 0.9% normal saline to infuse over 8 hours. The drop factor is 15 drops per milliliter. The nurse prepares to set the flow rate at how many drops per minute? Round to the nearest whole number. So we're just going to go right in, remember our formula, and we're going to plug in what we have. Our volume. Now, sometimes you're going to see different numbers in your problem. You have to be able to pull out the numbers that you need and ignore the numbers that you don't. This 0.9% has nothing to do with what we're doing. So we're not even going to worry about it. We want to know about the volume that's to be infused, how much time needs to be infused, and the drop factor. Okay, so our volume is 1,000 milliliters. Our time is 8 hours. We got to have minutes, right? So we're going to multiply 8 times 60. When we multiply 8 times 60, we get 480. And then our drop factor is 15. So once again, 1,000 times 15 is 15,000. Divided by 480. This is the time. And when we do that, we get 31.25. And it wants us to round to the nearest whole number. So that's going to be 31 drops per minute. Again, once you get to doing these, it's really, you're going to be so comfortable with doing these drops per minute problems that you're just going to go right through them. Don't go too fast because you don't want to make errors, but at least you're going to understand what you're doing. You're going to know your formula. You're going to plug in your number. You're not going to get distracted by other numbers that's in the problem. And you're going to work out your problem and get to the right answer. I believe in you. All right. So our next problem says a prescription reads Macrobid 1 gram and 50 milliliters normal saline to be administered over 30 minutes using microdrip tubing. How many drops per minute will the nurse set for a flow rate? Round to the nearest whole number. So we have our same formula that we're always going to use, times drop factor. Okay? This is always the formula for drops per minute. Okay? So what do we have here? Are we going to be concerned with 1 gram? No, we're not. We have our volume to be infused. We have our time. This time is already in minutes. So we're good to go. And then we need a drop factor. And it's telling us it's using micro drip tubing. So we know that micro drip tubing delivers 60 drops per milliliter, and 60 is the drop factor for micro drip tubing. So let's plug in our numbers. We have volume of 50 milliliters. Our time is 30 minutes. Times our drop factor of 60. That's going to give us 3,000 over 30. And when we divide that out, that's going to give us 100 drops per minute. And that's it. If you work those problems like that, if you use this formula here, make sure you convert when you need to convert your time. Make sure you don't get distracted by numbers that you don't need. You will be just fine answering these problems. All right, you guys, put your comments, work those problems, and have a great day.